Well, I haven't been posting videos as regularly. I've got a ton of videos, not a ton. I've got quite a few recorded, and I'm just having trouble finding time to edit and upload them. Life has just been crazy with kids and sports and school and my work. It's not leaving me with much time to work on YouTube videos, so I apologize for not getting them out regularly these past few weeks, but I do have quite a few videos recorded, and I'm going to try to get those edited and uploaded. But I wanted to go ahead, record this one, and get it uploaded because I need y'all's opinion on what to do here. So the 85 C10, I have not been driving it much lately, just because, like I said, life has been crazy. You know, kind of what was keeping me from driving it before was the cooling system, and I don't know, maybe several months back we went through and we kind of flushed the cooling system, did all that, but at that point the inspection sticker was expired, and the place I normally get my inspections done is not open on the weekends, and so you know, with working 5 days a week and only off on the weekends, it kind of makes it difficult to try to find some time to go get the thing inspected. By the time I get off work, they're closed, and so I guess I could probably find another place to go to just to get this one done, but that's kind of what's been keeping me from driving it. So I actually had gotten it out to go get it inspected. The other issue it does have is that the transmission leaks back. The pump in the transmission is worn, and so I didn't know that when I rebuilt this transmission. I reused the same pump. I had two other pumps I could have chosen from, but I chose this one since it, you know, it was the one that came with this truck, and I knew that transmission did work. Anyway, that pump's worn, and if you let it sit for over 24 hours, it overfills the transmission and it makes a mess. Even though I've replaced every seal on this thing, it still leaks, and so that's where we are. Kind of makes me not want to drive it because I normally have to check, you know, kind of let it warm up, check the transmission fluid. So it's just been something I've needed to do, just haven't done it. So I was going to get it out, pop the hood to put, you know, check transmission fluid, and so when I did that, went ahead, decided to check the I was going to take the cap off to see, you know, what the cooling system, make sure it still looked clean and everything, make sure it was still topped off with coolant. And when I did that, it had only been running a few seconds, and it had pressure on it, and it spewed, you know, cold coolant out. And so I was like, you know, that's not good. And so I put the cap back on and, you know, checked the hose, and it did not have any pressure on it. And a few seconds later, it started building pressure. So that's not good. You know, we've definitely got an issue. You can see it's still got some gunkiness in it. And so I think what we've got is either a blown head gasket or a cracked head. This thing has never gotten hot, so, you know, I'm sure it's probably just from this thing sitting. I'm gonna guess it's a head gasket that, you know, just kind of corroded through. You know, this thing sat with old coolant in it for, you know, 10 years or so. It is what it is. So this engine needs work, and it's also lately, it's had an issue I've noticed where once it's warmed up, you know, especially like if you've driven on a freeway or something, you know, where it's higher RPMs for a while, then you bring it back down to idle, it's got low oil pressure. When I say low, like 10 pounds of oil pressure is what it shows. Now, it sounds okay, you know, it's not making any noise or anything. So I've been wondering if it's the sending unit, but in the back of my head, I've been worrying that this thing just does have low oil pressure. And I'm running 10W30, I could run a higher weight oil in it. The other thing that's crossed my mind too is that, you know, this thing does have a quadrajet, and it does leak down, and so it is possible that the oil may be diluted a little bit with gas, you know, from it, the gas leaking down the carburetor into the cylinders, then leaking past the ring into the oil. That's also possible that the oil has thinned out. It doesn't need an oil change, you know, it's good, well, mileage wise and everything, but it is possible the oil could have thinned out. So, you know, we could do an oil change and see if that brings the oil pressure back up. But what has scared me is that down in here, and it's been like this since I've got it back on the road, you look at that oil filter cap. Now, that was not like this when this truck was sat up, you know, like 20 years ago. But when I went to go get it running, that's what this looked like. And so, you know, with this, when this truck sat, there must have been a lot of condensation going on inside of this engine, and it caused this oil filter cap, or oil fill cap, and the oil fill tube. I don't know if you can see that. You can see all that rust, and I can't tell, you know, it doesn't look the best if you look down there at the engine, you know. It looks like a rusty rocker arm to me. I can't tell. We have to get a scope in there or pull a valve cover. I'm trying to look too. I don't think that's a rocker arm. I think that's just the head. So I don't know. So that's kind of what I've feared, is that, you know, this thing has wiped out bearings because it's just got, you know, it's got rust all inside the engine. May or may not, you know, we don't really know until we tear down. But so what we've got a transmission that needs a new front pump, and we've got a well, I say front pump, it needs a pump, and an engine, a 305, that needs head gasket or gaskets. If I do one, I'll do both. And possibly a could have a cracked head or something like that. You know, we don't know until we tear it down. You know, we could do we could test it and we could see which side it is, but that's not really going to tell us if it's a head gasket or a head. I'm leaning towards a head gasket. Like I said, this thing did not get hot or anything, so normally you would only crack a head, and, you know, if you got it really hot. These heads are prone to cracking, but normally when they get hot, it's just 85 smog heads. It's nothing special. So, you know, if I tear this engine down, I'm not inclined to really do anything on this thing, on this engine at this point, because, you know, with the oil pressure issue, with not knowing, you know, if this thing's just covered in rust, I guess we could tell once we pull it out and pull the intake manifold, we'll be able to see. But I'm inclined to not want to invest much money in a 305, you know, with this thing probably needing quite a bit of work. So, what do we do? I'm going to give you 3 options, and you tell me what you think I should do. Option 1 would be to, you know, do whatever we need to do to repair this 305. It is the original engine to the truck. It's been rebuilt. The transmission is not the original, because the original case was cracked. So, but the engine itself is the original engine. We had it rebuilt, and then when we had the engine rebuilt, we rebuilt the transmission. And then the transmission, if you don't know the history of the truck, I'm giving it to you. The transmission started slipping in reverse, and so we parked the truck for like 20 years. And then I got it running again, troubleshooted the transmission, ended up tearing the transmission apart, and found the case was broke on the transmission that holds the snap ring for the reverse drum, reverse piston. The little the casting in the case that holds that snap ring broke and was causing it to leak, and that's why reverse failed. So found another case, swapped it in, you know, rebuilt, found another transmission, rebuilt it, put it in, and that's kind of where, and then, you know, just got the engine running. So I haven't really done anything with the engine itself other than just getting it running. I haven't had to do much with it. You know, it's been running fine until now, but we're gonna have to do something with it. And I'm not, I remember, you know, this was my grandpa's truck, and he passed away. I got it running again. And I remember he kind of regretted rebuilding this 305. He wished, at least he had said at one point, that he wished he would have just found a 350 and put in it instead of putting the money into the 305. And I kind of agree with that, you know, a 305 to me, you get the same gas mileage as a 350, just worse performance. You know, this thing gets 11 miles per gallon, and it has not, I mean, it's adequate. It propels this truck okay, but it's definitely not performance. So I really don't want to spend any money on a 305. I don't want to put anything into this. Of course, we could try to find a 350 and put in it. That's kind of option 2. We find a 350, hopefully a running 350. We put it in. I'd look for something maybe like a Vortec. I do not want a smog era heads 350, because that's really not going to be much better than the 305. So you know, if I'm doing a 350, it'll probably be a later model 350, or at least, you know, better heads, something kind of performance, not crazy, but not smog era 350. We're not going to do that. That's not worth it to me. So we do that, or we put a 4.8 or 5.3 on it, which is kind of what I've wanted to do with this truck. You know, try to get fuel injection on it, you know, get the miles per gallon better on, you know, the fuel efficiency better, and, you know, where I could drive it more. You know, the 350 really isn't going to help with that. You know, we could rebuild the carburetor and, you know, fine tune it and maybe get a little bit more gas mileage out of it, though we're not going to get much more out of it. You know, you could get it to 15, maybe. I think 15 is probably stretching it. But I think with a 4.8 or 5.3, I bet you could get 18 out of this truck. So that's kind of where we're at. That's what I've wanted to do. It's just, it's not coming at a good time to do a big project like that. It definitely would be a lot quicker and easier just to throw a 350 in it, especially if I could find a good running one and just slap it in there. Price-wise, you know, 350s, the prices on them down here have just kind of skyrocketed. You can find a 4.8 or 5.3 for the same price or cheaper than you can find a good running 350, which to me is crazy. Now, if I was going to get a 4.8 or 5.3, you know, I can't just go buy an engine. I need the whole wiring harness and everything. So I'd probably buy, you know, a Suburban that's maybe got some body damage, or, you know, Suburbans seem to be cheaper, the cheaper option, you know, on finding something. So get a Suburban or something and pull the engine, transmission, wiring harness and all that, swap it in here, and then maybe part out the Suburban or truck or whatever it is, and try to recoup some of the cost of the swap. That's definitely the most expensive option. I can probably get a, you know, a whole vehicle for about $1,000. Seems to be about the going rate here for a, you know, pretty clapped out Suburban. If I did that, as long as the thing ran and drove well, would just replace some gaskets, do oil pump, O-ring, and slap it in there. I'm not going to tear into it as long as it runs well. Not gonna go there. Just going to put it in and cross our fingers. Of course, we're not really crossing our fingers if we, you know, got a vehicle and got it running well and can test drive it, make sure no noises and runs well. But let me know what you think. Keep the 305, option 1, option 2, put a 350 in it. Option 3, do a 4.8 or 5.3 swap. So let me know, leave a comment down below, and you know, what video series you would like on this truck, because that's probably going to be what's coming up next on it. and I don't know how quickly I'll get to it, but I don't want to let this truck sit, and I need to get it back in the shop. I don't like letting it sit in the rain and in the sun. It already needs to be waxed again. I try to keep this thing waxed, keep the paint all shiny and nice on it and protected, keep this original patina that's on it, and so it already needs to be waxed again just because of the sun. So I need to get it back in the shop, and we need to figure out what we are going to do on it to get this thing back on the road, because I'm not going to drive it anymore, you know, with the head gasket or whatever that's going on with it, so it's going to stay parked till then. So don't want to let it sit, so we need to try to get started on this thing. I'm going to try to wrap up some other projects, and we'll get started on this. So let me know, 305, 350, or 4853. Leave it down below, and I'll get this posted up today, and you know, I'm going to start the search for all the above and see what good deals I can find, and subscribe for more, and look forward to this video coming up. And as always, thanks for watching.